I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Visitor Network TV. Our guest today is Bill Cohan. Bill is a former banker who has become a very successful author with, I believe, 3 books out about some of the debacles on Wall Street. One of them was Goldman Sachs. It's about Goldman Sachs, is it not? But one was about Lazard Frere and one was about Lehman Brothers. That was the particular.
Bear Stearns.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers.
Well, you know, I couldn't tell the story of Bear Stearns without telling the story of Lehman Brothers.
So, and then you've appeared on many different national TV shows and written many things, including an article in the August issue of Vanity Fair entitled "Movie Stars and Billionaires versus Nature's Wealth: The Looming Dangers to America's Super Rich Playgrounds."
I don't write the headlines.
I wondered about it. I was going to ask you about that. But essentially, it is a story about 2 communities, one being Malibu, California, and the other being Sconset, Nantucket, Massachusetts, who are facing severe erosion issues and trying to deal with the consequences of it one way or another. I think in the interest of full disclosure, we have to say that you were one of the homeowners on Baxter Road who is...
As I disclosed in the article.
As you disclosed in the article, and are most severely threatened.
That's correct.
By it. And this is a photograph of your house that I took in May for other reasons.
Yeah.
You lost, what, 20, 30 feet of bluff this year?
I don't think it was quite that much, but it was more than I wanted to lose, yes.
So,
but by the way, I mean, I think it's fair to say that when we bought this house 3 years ago, you know, we knew going in that the bluff was eroding and rapidly, and we knew that it was going to be an issue. You know, the price we paid for the house reflected that. So, you know, I can't say as I'm surprised, but, you know, I was hoping for a gradual deterioration, and last winter we got a major deterioration. Yeah.
Did you, when you were doing the research for the article, was there anything about all of this that you learned that you didn't know about the whole process of dealing with beach erosion and how the impact of it and so forth? Or were you pretty familiar with it already when you went into it?
Well, I mean, I learned a couple of things that I didn't know. I learned how many times my neighbors along the Sconset Bluff, and for how many years they had been trying to rectify this situation. And I learned that at one point, you know, early on, something like, you know, 20 years ago, they were allowed to create what I guess would be a very unusual system of the dewatering system? The dewatering system with pipes along the beach and things like that, which seems like a very sort of rudimentary kind of idea that, you know, with the ocean filled with so much water pounding away every day to try to take water out of the beach. But anyway, I guess some say it worked. But that was basically the last thing that the town actually approved, and that eventually fell apart and was removed. And of course, over the years, the solutions have become far more sophisticated and technical, but the town has not allowed any of those to go forward. So I learned about that, and that was very interesting to me. I mean, basically, there's a bunch of caring, determined people who want to do something about the erosion that they see on their own land, and then on the other side, of course, I learned firsthand from the equally determined people who, many of whom were on the Conservation Commission, and also, you know, on the town boards, and who are just around town government, who are equally determined not to allow anything to happen that will, you know, prevent nature from taking its course here.
What about the whole issue of scouring? And if you do something like this is done, the armoring is put in place. Even if the beach nourishment program, which was the proposal 3 years ago, had been put in place, you know, I think common wisdom is that any project like that results in scouring on either side of it where the beach is not protected.
Right. So now, of course, you're into an area of sophistication and technical expertise that I of course don't have. I mean, I'm familiar with the arguments, the people who want to try to preserve the bluff, take the position that quote unquote scouring, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but scouring is, can be ameliorated with bringing in additional sand on a regular basis, which they're prepared to do. I think they concede that something like that could happen. On the other hand, their argument is, beaches along both the west and east coast of the United States have been, built up and torn down by storms for generations. This is nothing new. It may sound new to Nantucket, but it's certainly not new. I mean, after my Vanity Fair article came out a couple weeks later, there was an article in the New Yorker about the similar type of behavior and beach nourishment programs that exist along the coast of New Jersey. And that's been going on for a long time. And, this so-called armoring that you refer to, which is, of course, the proposal that's in front of the Conservation Commission now, which is basically, I would say, an even more ambitious project of putting big stones against the base of the cliff to prevent erosion from the lighthouse down to about whatever it is, 65 or something, Baxter Road. I mean, the interesting thing is that this so-called sort of hard armoring of the cliff, that has happened many places around New England, around the coast of southern New England and southern Massachusetts and northern Massachusetts. And I grew up on the northern coast of Massachusetts in Gloucester and Rockport, Massachusetts, and in Rockport, Massachusetts, there is a where I grew up, there's a very large breakwater in the middle of the ocean that is, of course, designed to break the wave action coming into the harbor, and it does that beautifully. And it's now something that people regard as a thing of beauty. In Nantucket, there are many ironies. I mean, obviously, along the northern coast of Massachusetts, that's a very rocky coast. We're a big sand spit in the middle, 30 miles out in the middle of the ocean. But, there would be no harbor in Nantucket if man hadn't gone in there and dredged out all the sand and made a passage there. I note with interest that some $10 million of federal money was just used to rebuild the jetties, or will be used, or is slated to be used.
That's right.
No one's saying anything about that. There have been revetments on the other side of the island, I guess on Hulbert Lane and places like that. People have put revetments in. So, there's all this sort of Sturm and Drang about, let's leave it all alone, and let's, if it's going to waste away, let's have it waste away. But in fact, there's been many. I mean, Nantucket wouldn't be Nantucket if we hadn't, dredged the pathway leading to the harbor.